My parents only saw me as a worker, and when my grandmother passed, she left me an inheritance of $350,000. Then my parents sued me, and we discovered she had $6,400,000 in the bank. Hey Reddit, I've never posted anything like this before, but I feel like I need to unload everything. It feels like my whole life has been one long string of betrayals, trauma, and moments when I thought I'd finally broken free, only to get dragged back down. If you make it through this post, thank you in advance. I'm still trying to figure out where everything went wrong. Maybe writing it all down will help me understand, or maybe you can tell me what to do next. So here it goes from the beginning. I grew up in a tiny town, just a few rundown houses, a gas station, and one of those small diners where everyone gossips. My parents, Robert and Donna, weren't exactly what you'd call loving. My dad ran a construction business, and from the moment I could carry anything heavier than a bucket, I was put to work. My mom never stood up for me, always just going along with whatever dad said, which meant endless hours of hard labor for me. By the time I was 8, while other kids were out playing, I was digging ditches, hauling cement, and scrubbing my dad's equipment. To him, I wasn't a son, I was free labor. He wasn't teaching me the value of hard work. He was controlling me. He rarely spoke to me unless it was to give orders or hit me for not working fast enough. My mom, always in the kitchen or cleaning, acted like I didn't even exist. The only person who really saw me, really saw me, was my grandmother Margaret. She was my dad's mom, and why she cared about me, I'll never know, but she did. She lived in the next town over, and every time she visited, it was like a ray of sunlight piercing through the constant gloom. She'd bring me books, tell me stories from her own life, and always made sure I had something sweet to eat. She didn't have much, just Social Security and a little bit of savings, but she gave me the love my parents never did. School wasn't much of a refuge either. I was that kid from the troubled home, the one who teachers overlooked and the one other students picked on. My hand-me-down clothes, my rough hands from working, everything made me a target. But even with all that, my grandmother made sure I didn't completely fall apart. She always told me I was worth something, that I could be more than what my parents made me out to be. When I was old enough to understand what college was, my grandmother pushed me to go. She saved every dollar she could and helped me apply, even though my parents showed zero interest. My dad just grunted whenever I mentioned it, and my mom shrugged like it didn't matter. But Grandma? She had my back. It wasn't easy. After school, I'd have to finish chores, get screamed at by my dad, then hide somewhere just to do my homework. But somehow, I made it through. Senior year came, and my escape plan was simple: get into college and never come back. After a mountain of rejections, I finally got accepted into a small state university. It wasn't prestigious, but it was my way out. My parents didn't care. My dad mocked me, and my mom acted like they'd done me a favor by letting me live with them for so long. But I didn't care either. I was leaving Star. My grandmother cried tears of joy when I told her. She helped me pack, gave me all the money she'd saved, and drove me to campus herself. That moment felt like freedom. College wasn't exactly the escape I'd imagined, but it was better than home. I was still the odd one out, struggling to fit in to make friends. But at least I could focus on my studies. And I threw myself into my books like my life depended on it, because it did. My parents weren't waiting to take me back. If I failed, I had nothing to. The one person I stayed in touch with was my grandmother. She called me every week, sent care packages, and kept believing in me. She made me believe in myself, too, even when the weight of everything felt unbearable. For years passed in a blur. I graduated, not with fanfare, but with the determination to build a better life. I rushed back to my grandmother's house as soon as I could. The moment I saw her, standing on the porch waiting for me, all the pain and struggle of the past years hit me at once. She was frail, but she was still my rock. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a home. Not long after I moved back in with her, I got a job at a small architecture firm. The pay wasn't great, but the owner, John, had come from a rough background too, and he took me under his wing. For the first time, It felt like I was building something for myself. Then, life took an unexpected turn for the better. I met Sarah. She was everything I wasn't, confident, kind, full of life, and somehow we clicked. She made me feel worthy of love for the first time in my life. We got serious, and eventually, we had a beautiful daughter, Lily. Having her changed everything. I was determined to give her the childhood I never had, full of love, safety, and stability. But life is a way of pulling you back down just when you think you're free. Not long after Lily was born, my grandmother passed away in her sleep. I was devastated. She was the only one who ever truly loved me, and losing her was like losing the last piece of myself. After the funeral, I found out she had left me everything: the house, her belongings, and $350,000 in savings. I was shocked. I had no idea she'd managed to save so much. It was a lifeline that could help me give my family the life she always wanted for me to. But then my parents showed up. They hadn't even cared enough to come to the funeral. Yet now they were demanding I give them the inheritance. My dad claimed he was entitled to everything as her son. When I refused, they actually sued me, claiming I'd manipulated her into leaving everything to me. I thought it couldn't get worse, until my lawyer discovered that my grandmother hadn't just left $350,000. She had over $6.4 million tucked away in investments that had quietly grown over the years. My parents somehow got wind of this and escalated their legal battle, trying to claim it was theirs by right. After months of stressful court hearings, the judge ruled in my favor. My grandmother's will was clear. Everything was meant for me. My parents lost, but they didn't care. They stormed out, full of fury, and I knew this wasn't over. I thought I could finally breathe, but no. A few weeks later, I got a package in the mail from my parents' lawyer, claiming they had new evidence to contest the ruling. They weren't done trying to rip apart everything my grandmother had left me. So here I am, Reddit. I feel like I'm trapped in a never-ending nightmare with parents who refuse to let go, driven by greed and a lifetime of resentment. I don't know what to do next, but I'm not giving up. My grandmother believed in me, and I owe it to her and to Lily to protect what she fought so hard to give me. Thanks for listening. Any advice on how to move forward from here would be appreciated.